But let's begin, first of all, with something of a matter of faith, though we certainly don't depart from that by the end. I came across an interesting statement that related to my sermon preparation this week that was found in Thomas A. Kempis's Imitation. He quoted the book of Job, chapter 7, verse 1, and it stood out to me because I had just read from several commentaries and studying the text and word studies, and I had on my mind this issue of warfare in chapter 40 of Isaiah. I may have mentioned the wrong chapter previous. If I did, forgive me. Isaiah 40, in verse 1 and 2, you'll find this statement that her warfare is ended. The people of God's warfare is ended. And so when I read in particular this statement about warfare, it really stood out. And so Job 7:1 says this: the life of man upon earth is a warfare. This is found from the Dewey Rames Bible, from what I could tell, that Thomas A. Kempis is quoting from. And I found out that that actually is a translation of the Latin Vulgate. I'm thankful that I did some Latin studies and studies through the Vulgate with my two older homeschool children. Um, and and so I can quote from that, which, if you don't know Latin, it's not a big deal. I'll explain, but it's militia est vista hominis super terram, which means, if you can just pick up on some of the words, militia, which would be like militia, would obviously be the word for warfare or a reference to warfare. Est means is, vitam speaks of life, hominis would speak about man, as in an ad hominem argument, um, which attacks the man, and super being upon. So is this interesting? Just a little bit of learning there paying off in time. You just never know how some of those studies you might help your kids with end up actually being reciprocal and bringing you some joy in knowing what is before you. Well, the whole relationship between this idea of warfare and the quote from Job 7:1 plays a big role in my studies this week. 1 Samuel 2:22, an interesting picture where Eli's sons are found going to the temple and they are having sex with the prostitutes there. Those prostitutes, the temple prostitutes, are said to be warring against uh, there. So they're warring. Well, the warfare that is described in Isaiah chapter 41 and 2 is in the thought of Martin Lloyd Jones, whose sermon greatly helped me on the text. Uh, in his words and thoughts, they are related to the issue of sin and iniquity. And he describes how sin and iniquity are the war against God. And I think anybody that studies the Bible would see that from the very beginning in Genesis 3:15, where sin has entered the world. There's obviously warfare between the seed of Satan and the seed that would come through um, the woman and be born and would crush the serpent's head. Nonetheless, we won't get into all of these things, but I just wanted to really just share a little bit about that connection. I thought it was a just interesting, and it just brings out some of um, the romance of pastoral ministry and preaching. How this is not a static thing in which we as called men of God um, are simply going along and kind of deciding everything. The Lord guides His men who are called to the ministry, and if anything, I just love to make sure that ministry is seen for what it is, and in its beauty, in its romance, and in its drama of goodness. It is just a wonderful vocation. It's not the only vocation, that you can serve the Lord in. It's just, it is a tremendous one, and I'm thankful to be part of doing that. And it impacts all the other things, parenting and writing and all the other all the other matters in life. Um, a little bit of news from uh, I've mentioned to some my spiritual depression study guide. I can trace it back. Probably wrote it about 10 years ago, and it was being used way more than I anticipated. Um, I had written that and taught it at a midweek gathering when we used to do midweek gatherings at the church. Um, I taught this and wrote it for that purpose. I saved the document, ended up um, ended up right around that time getting it uh, put with a publisher who put it on the website to accompany their edition of Spiritual Depression by Martin Lloyd Jones. And it became difficult to get. I found out through a um, a leading biblical counselor who contacted me and informed me that many pastors were using this. He was using this to instruct and encourage pastors, and so he asked if I had a copy. I sent him a PDF. Long story short, in a few conversations, I decided to reach out to the Martin Lloyd Jones Trust so it would become um, more readily accessible, uh, because who knows others that are trying to get this resource. And the Lloyd Jones Trust, in about a 6-month period, has agreed to put it out. And in fact, um, the product is actually done. It's going to be linked on their website under Spiritual Depression Sermons by Martin Lloyd Jones. And and this, in I think in a week or two, at the Association of Certified Biblical Counselors, ACBC, their conference, um, every attendee is going to be given a copy of the book Spiritual Depression by Martin Lloyd Jones, containing his sermons, and those of the Lloyd Jones Trust will be recommending and sharing about the study guide, which is going to be hyperlinked and with the QR code on their website. So the praise be to the Lord for this. I'm really excited that it's being used. Um, I uh, it's just wonderful to see it being used. So I don't get anything from it, just notoriety and the fact that I get to know people are using a resource that came literally birthed out of local church ministry. So pray for that to get into all the hands that God intends. And I know that it's a result of prayer to begin with that these type of resources are being used. But it encouraged me, and I hope it's an encouragement, um, perhaps to those who are doing wonderful works out there and wondering if it's really going to make a difference. And I can share that here's a case where something I wrote 10 years ago is now being used in a much larger way. And that's to the glory of God, very encouraging. Okay, well, let's shift gears to the issue of fiction. Um, I try to hit on three categories: faith, fiction, and memory. From these three places, it's kind of been areas where, as I thought through my writing, where I'm writing from, and I haven't. It's not a season for fiction writing right now for me. I did my first fiction work, "The Smile of the Reformation," um, recently, and I put that in an ebook that you can read on your Kindle or on Apple Books or anything that will load an EPUB file, and that is on the Substack. If you didn't know, this resource is under books, and I put a second book there right now um, that is called Love Found and Founded, which actually has some relationship to the memory item I'm going to share with you in a moment. But if you have not, um, if you've not availed yourself of these resources, I hope you will, and I hope you'll share them. Um, it's the fictional work I wrote is it's an inspiring story where three people all need an experience um, a a vital change in terms of their outlook, and in particular, one of them of their very lives coming to Christ. So I had fun with my historical fiction writing, and I hope to do more. But I just mentioned it in passing that go check that out, share it, and get it out to folks. I haven't published it with anybody. A lot of times, online publishers, people that journals and such are wanting to first go at it. I decided rather to give it out for free and put it on the site. And at the same time, I do encourage people to support my Substack to become a paid subscriber. It helps one encourage this writer, and it also supplies a little extra, be able to um, do some things and purchase things that are needed. And in the ministry, as many of you know, that pastoring and ministering small churches, um, it's not a matter of doing any of this for money, but it makes a huge difference. Just those little extras that come in, so you can bless your family, so you can grab a resource, whatever it is. But and it allows me both to be encouraged and also actually substantially helps me um, with some basic needs along the way. So please, I got a handful of people that do that. Thank you. Let me just shout out to each of you. Thank you so much, those who invest in this ministry. And again, it's not for the money, but it's amazing the work that's being done here and how God's blessed it, and the supporters. How much it's an encouragement to me that you say I believe in your work and you're willing to pay a little something to support this. So thank you. May God bless you richly for doing that. The last thing I'm sharing, and just to bring up subscription matters again, one of the things I hope happens is I have a lot more subscribers where if I put a an archive up or something where I'm not wanting to put out a lot of these personal essays long term, people that are subscribed can read them, because I am sharing things that are of great personal nature, especially when I share um, these personal essays. And I've shared one today. It's really my first one I'm sharing that probably unfolds something of a memoir quality. And I share it because in my writing group, as I wrote this essay and as I got feedback and I made some edits on it, um, just in the midst of it, I got news of it being used in a positive way to actually minister to people. And so I'm really just trying to lay these things out there as a way of service to my readers, of loving my readers, and those who are supporting the Substack especially. So that's why I'm sharing it, all for the glory of the Lord, and also to really minister to you. Well, I'm not going to read the essay. I just want to refer to it. But when I sat down and wrote this essay, I began with a memory from my short-term mission trip many years ago in India, and um, I pulled out an old photo album, which I have here on my desk because I'm still in the middle of my memoir mini class. I'm learning how to do this, and I have all these pictures of just uh, just amazing memories, and trying to turn to the maybe one that connects with the story. I think when I began to think about what I was going to write, the first thought I was going to share was of this. It was a picture. You can see this beautiful little girl I saw. I snapped a picture of her in the middle of India, and then you'll see this one next to her. of me in an orphanage walking with some young boys. I thought I was gonna write, just about beauty, but I my assignment was to really not begin with an objective, but rather to begin with a story, a memory, a concrete memory, and move into an abstract thought. So I didn't write that. I ended up writing of a memory where I got off of the plane in New Delhi, and we found ourselves surrounded by a mob of men, and we were in fear for our lives. And I certainly did not intend to take that down a road to, um, another memory as I cycled back through. That was part of our assignment, is to cycle back through perhaps another memory with the same trajectory of thought towards an abstract idea. The abstract idea ended up becoming faith, so it naturally led me into a story about the birth of my third daughter, and whose uh, whose name is literally faith, and I share that. So I really think there's some use in writing things like this. I've already seen the some of the fruit real early on this, how it connects with people and helps them to process and interpret um, events in their lives, especially difficult ones. Having the right interpreter of their experiences in life in terms of providence. And I've had at least two within a week that this particular story has impacted already. So I do really share it in love that it would be of service to those who watch and read here on the Substack. Um, I put a picture, and I'll explain that picture on the midweek miscellaneous. You'll see it is a picture of a picture. It's from the front of a original. It's when I used to blog, and I wrote this. The blog was named Because He Loves You, and I think I had it first under God's hands. I don't know. I've had a habit of changing the name on my websites a lot, the titles anyway. But out of that came, I wrote a series of posts that was really just to keep my church family informed and other family members informed. And I'd write something almost every day, especially when I was staying at the Ronald McDonald House in Chapel Hill while we were trying to figure out what was going on. And it was a second month of just no answers. Then we had all these answers, and some difficult ones. And God just ministered to us, especially through the writings of Susanna Spurgeon. And I share a quote from her in that. And that 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 phrase, "Because He loved you," comes from a devotion on out of uh, Deuteronomy 7, I think it is. And so anyway, that's what came out of that. And I'm so thankful I wrote those things and actually printed them, because I don't have the blog anymore. It was back when I was using Blogger, and I don't have that blog anymore. But I printed them with the pictures and put them in a book, and it served to be just a special memory book for me. I had no idea that I would be taking writing classes and putting out writing materials. But as many of you know, I've been writing even before I was ministering as a pastor, and even before I came to the church where I minister now. Um, it was through that blog that certain members read and were convinced that I was to be called here at this church, which I've been the past 16 years. Well, there's just so many good things that have come out of that. I guess the lesson is simply that um, you never know in terms of what you're doing, what you're writing, of how positively that's impacting the world and will impact the world, people around you, ministries. um, and in your own life and increase your own joy. And this is all from the Lord. This is all gifts, grace gifts that He has granted us, um, and all the glory belongs to Him. But I would encourage you that maybe think about that, about, in the middle of the week, perhaps you're in the middle of your life, from your perspective, and you wonder if you have made any positive difference, or if you're ever going to. And hopefully, just this testimony of things I'm sharing with you indicates most surely, because our lives are being governed and guided um, by one who is divine, and one who is immense and infinite and just and gracious and merciful. His providence is upholding everything, and through His Son, and we can be confident that whatever good we've done, whatever good we're doing, whatever good we will do, will most certainly have a positive impact for generations to come. So we should not lose heart. Uh, Kind of a key verse that I ended the Lord's Day last Sunday with was, "Be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor's not in vain." May God encourage you with these words. Have a great week leading up to the Lord's Day. God bless.